The days following the demonstration brought a noticeable shift in the academy. The Virac students, inspired by what they had witnessed, began to blend human techniques with their own advanced methods. They practiced tirelessly, experimenting with combinations of natural remedies and technology. Even Zixar, though still skeptical, started observing Ethan's lessons more closely, his sharp criticisms softening into thoughtful questions. Ethan and Claire were invited to join the students on another expedition into Siloth 7's wilderness. This time, the goal was to test their combined knowledge in real-world conditions. The group ventured deeper into the forest than before, navigating treacherous terrain filled with glowing fungi, venomous plants, and the distant roars of unseen predators. The air was thick with humidity, and the ground beneath their feet felt unstable, as if the planet itself were alive and shifting. As they moved through the dense undergrowth, Caliph stopped suddenly, raising a limb to signal silence. "Something is wrong," he said, his voice low. Ahead of them, a large creature lay sprawled near a stream, its body twitching weakly. It was a young Zrinth, its golden fur matted with blood from multiple wounds. Its breathing was shallow, and its eyes flickered open briefly before closing again. "This is our chance," Caliph said, turning to the group. "Show us what you've learned." Ethan stepped forward, assessing the situation quickly. "We need to stabilize it first," he instructed. "Claire, help me clean the wounds. Syra, gather some of those glowing mushrooms. They might have healing properties." The students sprang into action, working together seamlessly. Some used portable scanners to analyze the creature's injuries, while others prepared makeshift bandages and splints. Zixar watched silently, his arms crossed, but he didn't interfere. Instead, he observed how Ethan and Claire guided the students, blending improvisation with precision. When one student hesitated, unsure how to proceed, Ethan knelt beside them, offering calm advice. "Focus on stopping the bleeding," he said. "Everything else comes after." Claire worked alongside Ethan, her movements steady and efficient. She applied a cooling gel to reduce swelling and handed him strips of fabric to secure the bandages. Together, they stabilized the creature's most critical injuries, their teamwork earning approving clicks from the Virath students. Meanwhile, Syra returned with a handful of glowing mushrooms. "These are safe," she said confidently. "They contain compounds that promote healing." Under Ethan's guidance, she crushed the mushrooms into a paste and applied it to the creature's wounds. The mixture seemed to soothe the Zrinth, its breathing growing steadier. As the group worked, the forest around them came alive with sound. Birds screeched overhead, and the distant rumble of thunder echoed through the trees. Rain began to fall, drenching the group and making the ground slick. Despite the worsening conditions, no one faltered. They shielded the injured creature from the downpour, using their bodies and cloaks to keep it dry. Finally, after hours of effort, the Zrinth's condition improved enough for them to move it. Using vines and branches, they fashioned a stretcher and carried the creature back to the academy. Along the way, Ethan noticed how the students had grown more confident, their earlier doubts replaced by determination. Even Zixar walked beside him, his expression unreadable but less hostile than before. When they reached the academy, the creature was taken to the medical bay, where advanced machines monitored its recovery. Caliph addressed the group, his tone filled with pride. "Today, you proved that combining knowledge can lead to extraordinary results. Each of you contributed something vital: human ingenuity, Virac precision, and the courage to adapt." The students cheered, their voices echoing through the hall. Ethan and Claire exchanged a glance, both exhausted but satisfied. They had come to teach medicine, but they had achieved something far greater: unity. Later that night, as Ethan stood outside gazing at the glowing horizon, Zixar approached him. For once, there was no hostility in his posture. "Your methods are unconventional," he admitted, "but perhaps they have value. Perhaps we can learn from each other." Ethan smiled faintly. "That's all I ever wanted, to share knowledge and build bridges. Under the twin suns of Siloth 7, surrounded by the hum of the alien wilderness, Ethan felt a deep sense of accomplishment. This mission wasn't just about teaching. It was about proving that two very different species could work together, finding strength in their differences. And as he looked at the stars above, he knew their journey was only beginning. As the days passed, Ethan and Claire noticed a subtle change in the academy. The Virac students were no longer just passive learners. They had become active participants, eager to test their skills and challenge themselves. Yet, not everyone was pleased with the progress. Zixar, an elder instructor who had been quietly observing the humans' methods, grew increasingly critical. He saw Ethan's teachings as a threat to traditional Virac practices and made no effort to hide his disapproval. One morning, as Ethan prepared for another lesson, Zixar approached him in the hallway. His tall, imposing figure cast a long shadow, and his voice carried a sharp edge. "Your methods are reckless," he said bluntly. "You encourage improvisation over precision. How can such chaos produce reliable results?" Ethan paused, meeting Zixar's gaze calmly. "Improvisation isn't chaos, it's adaptability. On dangerous planets like this one, you don't always have access to perfect tools or conditions. Sometimes survival depends on thinking quickly and using what's available." Zixar clicked sharply, a sound of irritation. "Our technology is superior. Machines do not fail. They do not make mistakes." "But machines aren't always there when you need them," Ethan countered. "What happens if your equipment malfunctions, or if you're stranded without it? Humans have learned to rely on knowledge and creativity because we can't depend solely on machines." The argument drew the attention of nearby students, including Calith, who stepped forward to mediate. "Both approaches have value," he said diplomatically. "Perhaps a demonstration would help us compare them." Ethan nodded, sensing an opportunity. "I'm willing if Zixar is." Zixar hesitated but eventually agreed, unable to back down without appearing weak. The stage was set for a public test, a simulated emergency where both instructors would treat a critically injured creature brought in from the wild. The stakes were high. Failure could discredit either method entirely. That evening, the entire academy gathered in the training hall. A large, fanged predator lay unconscious on a table, its injuries carefully staged for the demonstration. Its jagged claws twitched occasionally, and its glowing eyes flickered beneath closed lids. The tension in the room was palpable as Calith addressed the crowd. "Tonight, we will witness two approaches to healing," he announced. "Dr. Blake will demonstrate human techniques, while Instructor Zixar will use our traditional methods. Let us observe and learn." Zixar went first, approaching the creature with a sleek, metallic device that hummed softly. He scanned the injuries, inputting data into the machine, which instantly generated a treatment plan. With precise movements, he attached wires and tubes to the creature's body, administering synthetic compounds designed to accelerate healing. The process was efficient, almost mechanical, and the students watched in awe as the creature's vital signs stabilized. When it was Ethan's turn, he moved differently, more deliberately, yet less rigid. He examined the creature closely, using only his hands and a few basic tools. Instead of relying on machines, he cleaned the wounds with antiseptic, applied natural ointments made from local plants, and used strips of fabric to secure bandages. His technique was slower, more hands-on, but it required no external power source or advanced equipment. As the demonstration progressed, the creature began to stir, reacting to the treatments. Under Zixar's care, it remained still, sedated by the machine's influence. But under Ethan's care, it growled softly, its instincts kicking in despite the pain. Some students murmured nervously, unsure which approach was better. Finally, the test ended, and Calith stepped forward to assess the results. Both methods had succeeded in stabilizing the creature, though in different ways. Zixar's approach was clean and calculated, while Ethan's was raw and resourceful. Calith turned to the crowd. "Each method has its strengths," he said. "Our technology offers precision, but human ingenuity provides flexibility. Perhaps the true lesson here is balance. The students exchanged thoughtful glances, realizing the wisdom in Calith's words. Even Zixer seemed to soften slightly, though his pride kept him silent. Later that night, as Ethan and Claire reflected on the day's events, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. The challenge had been intense, but it had also proven something important. Humanity's adaptability wasn't just useful, it was essential. And maybe, just maybe, it could find a place among the stars alongside the Virec's brilliance. As the weeks passed, Ethan and Claire settled into a rhythm with their Virec students. The initial tension had faded, replaced by a growing sense of camaraderie. Lessons became lively exchanges of ideas, with both humans and aliens learning from each other. Ethan found himself sharing not just medical techniques, but stories about Earth's history, how humanity had faced countless dangers and adapted to survive. The Virac listened intently, their large eyes reflecting curiosity and respect. One evening, after a long day of teaching, Calith invited Ethan and Claire to join him in the Academy's observation deck. The room was filled with holographic displays showing images of Xyloth 7's ecosystems, its creatures, and even ancient ruins left behind by earlier civilizations. Calith gestured toward one display, a massive predator with glowing eyes and razor-sharp claws. This creature is known as the Srinth, Calith explained. It is one of the deadliest hunters on our planet. Many have died trying to study it. Yet your people seem unafraid of danger. Why is that? Ethan leaned back, thinking carefully before answering. Humans aren't fearless. We feel fear like anyone else, but we've learned to use it, to push through it when necessary. Fear reminds us what's at stake, whether it's protecting ourselves or helping others. Caliph clicked softly, his version of a thoughtful nod. Your perspective is enlightening. Perhaps that is why your medicine works so well. It is not just about fixing injuries. It is about understanding life itself. Claire chimed in, her voice warm. Exactly. Medicine isn't just science. It's about caring for people, no matter how different they are. That's something we want to share with you. The conversation continued late into the night, covering everything from human culture to the Virac's own struggles with survival. Calith admitted that while their technology was advanced, it sometimes made them complacent. We rely too much on machines, he said. Perhaps your methods can teach us to be stronger, not just physically, but mentally. The next morning, the students greeted Ethan and Claire with renewed enthusiasm. Syra, in particular, seemed eager to learn more. She approached Ethan during a break, holding out a small object, an intricately carved piece of crystal. This is for you, she said shyly, to thank you for everything you've done. Ethan accepted it, surprised by the gesture. It's beautiful. Thank you, Syra. It's a symbol of trust, she explained. Among my people, giving such a gift means we see you as allies. Touched, Ethan nodded. I'll treasure it. And I hope we can keep working together, not just now, but in the future. Later that day, Ethan decided to introduce a new lesson, psychological resilience. He gathered the students in a quiet corner of the academy, where the air was cool and calm. Medicine isn't just about treating the body, he began. It's also about helping the mind. When someone is hurt or scared, they need support, not just physically, but emotionally. Claire stepped forward, demonstrating breathing exercises designed to calm anxiety. Try this, she instructed, guiding the students through slow, steady breaths. It helps clear your thoughts and focus on what matters. At first, the Virac struggled to grasp the concept. Their species didn't experience emotions in the same way humans did, making it difficult for them to relate. But as Claire patiently explained the importance of mental strength in high-stress situations, they began to understand. Syra practiced the exercises diligently, her posture relaxing as she focused on her breathing. By the end of the session, even Calith seemed impressed. This is unlike anything we've ever studied, he admitted. Yet it makes sense. A strong mind leads to better decisions, and better outcomes. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between the humans and the Virac deepened. They shared meals, stories, and laughter, finding common ground despite their differences. Ethan often caught glimpses of the students practicing their newfound skills outside of class, determined to master every technique. Syra, especially, showed remarkable progress, her confidence growing with each passing day. One afternoon, as Ethan and Claire prepared for another lesson, Calith approached them with a proposal. "We would like to hold a ceremony to honor your contributions," he said. "You have taught us more than medicine. You have shown us the value of adaptability and courage." Ethan smiled, humbled by the gesture. "We're glad to help. This has been a team effort. All of you have worked hard to learn." That evening, the ceremony took place in the Academy's Grand Hall. The Virac presented Ethan and Claire with honorary titles. Back at the Academy, the atmosphere was different. The rescue at the river had shifted something in the Virac students. They no longer looked at Ethan and Claire with suspicion or doubt. Instead, their eyes held a mix of respect and curiosity. Syra, still recovering from her ordeal, moved more carefully but seemed determined to stay involved. She approached Ethan later that evening, her voice soft but sincere. "You saved my life," she said. "I thought humans were too reckless. But now I see it's not recklessness, it's courage." Ethan nodded, brushing off the praise. "We do what we have to. That's all it is." Calith called for a meeting that night, gathering everyone in the main hall. The room buzzed with quiet conversations as the students discussed what had happened at the river. When Calith stepped forward, the chatter died down instantly. "Today," he began, his voice echoing through the chamber, "we witnessed something remarkable. Dr. Blake and Ms. Dawson showed us not just skill, but bravery. On Siloth 7, survival is not guaranteed. Yet these humans acted without hesitation to protect one of our own." He paused, glancing at Ethan and Claire before continuing. "It has become clear that their methods, though unfamiliar, are effective. From this point forward, we will embrace their teachings fully. Let us honor their efforts by learning from them." The announcement was met with murmurs of approval. Some students even clicked softly, a gesture Ethan was beginning to recognize as a sign of respect. For the first time since arriving, he felt like they were truly being accepted. Over the next few days, the lessons took on a new energy. The Virac students threw themselves into practicing human techniques, eager to master skills they once dismissed. Ethan focused on teaching practical solutions, how to set broken bones using splints made from branches, how to identify medicinal plants in the wild, and how to stabilize someone until proper care could be given. Claire worked alongside him, patiently guiding those who struggled. One afternoon, while demonstrating how to treat burns, Ethan noticed Calith watching closely. After the session ended, the Virac leader approached him. "Your methods are strange, yet efficient," Calith admitted. "But tell me, what drives your people to adapt so quickly? Why do you not rely solely on machines?" Ethan thought for a moment before answering. "On Earth, we've faced challenges for centuries: wars, diseases, natural disasters. Machines can fail, but knowledge doesn't. We've learned to trust ourselves, to use what we know to survive. Adaptability isn't just a skill, it's a way of life." Calith tilted his head, processing the words. "A way of life," he repeated slowly. "Perhaps that is what we lack here. Our technology shields us, but maybe it also makes us weak." As the days passed, the bond between the humans and the Virac grew stronger. During breaks, Ethan and Claire joined the students in sharing stories about their respective worlds. The Virac spoke of their advanced cities, where towering structures floated above the ground, powered by energy harvested from Siloth 7's core. In return, Ethan shared tales of Earth's diversity, its vast oceans, sprawling deserts, and bustling cities. He described how humanity had overcome countless hardships, always finding ways to endure. Syra became especially close to Claire, asking endless questions about Earth's creatures and ecosystems. "Your world sounds dangerous," she said one evening, "but also beautiful. I would like to visit someday." Claire smiled warmly. "You'd be welcome. Just don't forget to pack plenty of bandages." By the end of the week, the transformation in the students was undeniable. They no longer hesitated to practice human techniques, even volunteering to role-play emergency scenarios. One day, Ethan staged a mock rescue operation in the Academy's training grounds. The students worked together seamlessly, applying everything they had learned, from stabilizing fake injuries to improvising tools from scraps. Watching them, Ethan felt a deep sense of pride. That night, as he stood outside gazing at the alien sky, Claire joined him. "They're really coming around, aren't they?" she said, her tone light. "They are," Ethan replied. "And it's not just about medicine anymore. It's about understanding each other, about proving that two very different species can work together." Claire nodded, looking out at the glowing horizon. "Do you think they'll remember this after we leave?" "I think they'll have to," Ethan said firmly. "Because if they ever face a situation like Cybra did at the river, they'll need every bit of knowledge we've given them." Under the twin suns, surrounded by the hum of Tyloth 7's wilderness, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. This mission wasn't just about teaching. It was about building bridges, and for the first time, he believed those bridges might hold. The next morning, Ethan and Claire arrived at the Academy with a new plan. After yesterday's mishap, they knew they needed to rebuild trust with the Vyrek students. Sitting in their quarters the night before, they had brainstormed ideas, and Ethan suggested taking the class into Tyloth 7's wilderness. "If we show them how our methods work in real situations," he had said, "they'll understand why adaptability is so important." When they entered the teaching hall, Caliph was already waiting, his posture tense but curious. "You wish to speak with me?" he asked, his voice calm but tinged with suspicion. "Yes," Ethan replied. "I'd like to take the students into the field. Book learning is useful, but medicine isn't just about theory. It's about action, especially when lives are on the line." Caliph hesitated, his multifaceted eyes narrowing slightly. "The wilderness is dangerous. Are you certain this is wise?" "It's necessary," Ethan insisted. "Survival medicine is about thinking on your feet. If we stay in this room, all we're doing is talking. Out there," he gestured toward the window, where the glowing forest stretched endlessly. "Out there, they'll see what I mean." After some debate, Caliph agreed, though not without reservations. He gathered the students and explained the plan, emphasizing the risks of leaving the safety of the Academy. Syra, still recovering from the previous day's incident, seemed hesitant but ultimately joined the group. Together, they prepared for the journey, packing minimal supplies as Ethan had instructed. As they stepped outside, the air was thick with humidity, carrying the scent of unfamiliar plants and minerals. The landscape was breathtaking. A mix of towering trees with bioluminescent leaves, jagged rocks, and rivers that shimmered faintly under the twin suns. Ethan led the way, pointing out potential hazards: venomous plants with needle-like thorns, quicksand-like patches of mud, and the distant calls of unseen predators. "This is why preparation matters," Ethan said, pausing near a cluster of glowing mushrooms. "In an environment like this, injuries can happen anytime. Knowing how to treat them could save your life, or someone else's." Claire walked beside him, scanning the group to ensure everyone stayed close. She noticed Syra lingering near the back, her movements cautious. "How's your arm?" Claire asked softly. "It's fine," Syra replied, though her tone suggested otherwise. "But I'm not used to places like this. Our cities are safe, controlled." "That's the point," Claire said with a small smile. "Sometimes safety isn't an option. That's when you rely on what you've learned." As they ventured deeper into the forest, the terrain grew rougher. The path narrowed, forcing the group to climb over fallen logs and wade through shallow streams. Ethan stopped occasionally to demonstrate techniques, such as using vines as makeshift splints or identifying edible plants that could double as medicine. The students watched intently, their skepticism slowly giving way to curiosity. At one point, they reached a wide river with strong currents. Ethan pointed to a fallen tree spanning the water. "This will get us across. But be careful, it's slippery." One by one, the group began crossing, their movements cautious but steady. Claire went next, her boots gripping the bark as she made her way to the other side. When it was Cyra's turn, she hesitated, her body stiff with fear. "I can't," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "You can," Ethan encouraged, stepping back onto the log. "Just focus on each step. I'll guide you." With Ethan's calm instructions, Cyra inched forward, her claws digging into the wood. Halfway across, disaster struck. A sudden gust of wind knocked her off balance, sending her tumbling into the rushing water. Her scream echoed through the forest as the current pulled her downstream. "Cyra!" Caliph shouted, panic rising in his voice. Ethan didn't hesitate. Grabbing a nearby vine, he leaped into the river, fighting against the powerful current. Claire sprinted along the bank, shouting directions. The other students stood frozen, unsure what to do. Reaching Cyra, Ethan wrapped the vine around her torso and signaled for Claire to pull. Together, they hauled her to safety, her body trembling as she collapsed onto the shore. The students rushed forward, their earlier doubts replaced by concern. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, checking her for injuries. Cyra nodded weakly, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Thank you," she whispered. As the group caught their breath, Caliph approached Ethan, his expression unreadable. "Your actions, they were reckless but effective. Perhaps there is more to learn from you than I thought." Under the fading light of the twin suns, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the Virac were beginning to see the value in humanity's unorthodox ways. The next day, Ethan and Claire prepared for another lesson, this time focusing on treating more serious injuries. The Virac students filed into the hall, their movements stiff with anticipation. After yesterday's demonstration, they seemed both curious and cautious, unsure what to expect from these humans who relied so heavily on hands-on techniques. Caliph stood at the front of the room, his posture formal but attentive. "Today," Ethan began, "we're going to talk about stabilizing major wounds, cuts that are deep or breaks in the body that need immediate care." He held up a larger model of a human leg, pointing out the bones, muscles, and blood vessels. "When someone is hurt badly, every second counts. You have to act fast to stop bleeding, protect the injury, and keep the patient alive until you can do more." Cyra raised her limb again, her voice steady. "What if there's no medicine? No tools?" Ethan smiled slightly. "Then you use what's around you. Humans living on dangerous planets often don't have access to hospitals or supplies. They make do with whatever they can find. Cloth, sticks, even dirt if it's clean enough. Survival depends on creativity." To illustrate his point, Ethan decided to simulate an emergency scenario. He turned to Cyra. "Would you mind helping me again?" She hesitated but nodded. Stepping forward, Ethan handed her a small device designed to mimic the effects of a severe cut. When activated, it would create a harmless yet realistic-looking wound on her exoskeleton. "Okay," Ethan said, attaching the device to Cyra's arm. "Imagine this is real. You've been injured during a mission, and we're in the middle of nowhere. What do we do first?" Claire stepped in, playing along. "Stop the bleeding," she said firmly. "If blood keeps flowing, the patient could die." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. Pressure is key." He instructed Cyra to press down on the simulated wound while he rummaged through a bag of makeshift supplies. Pulling out a strip of fabric, he wrapped it tightly around her arm. "This acts as a tourniquet. It slows the blood flow and buys us time." Some of the students leaned closer, fascinated by the simplicity of the method. Others exchanged doubtful glances, clearly skeptical that such rudimentary techniques could work. One student, a taller Varek named Frex, clicked sharply. Your methods seem risky. What if the pressure damages the limb further? It's a calculated risk, Ethan replied. In emergencies, doing nothing is often more dangerous than trying something. Besides, we monitor the patient closely to avoid complications. As Ethan continued explaining, Silra suddenly winced, her body jerking slightly. The simulation device had malfunctioned, delivering a sharp pulse of energy instead of the mild sensation it was supposed to produce. Her exoskeleton crackled faintly, and she let out a low hiss of discomfort. Calith immediately stepped forward, his tone sharp. Enough. This is unacceptable. Your human tricks may harm our people. Ethan froze, realizing the situation had spiraled out of control. It's not harmful, he said quickly. The device must have short-circuited. I'll fix it. But the damage was done. Several students backed away, murmuring angrily. Syra remained still, her expression unreadable, though her posture suggested lingering pain. Claire moved to reassure her, speaking softly. We're sorry. That wasn't supposed to happen. For a moment, the room felt tense, the air thick with mistrust. Ethan knew he had to act quickly to salvage the lesson and their credibility. Listen, he said, raising his voice slightly to be heard over the growing murmurs. Mistakes happen, even in medicine. What matters is how we respond. Let me show you how to handle unexpected problems like this. He knelt beside Syra, checking the simulated wound carefully. Though it wasn't real, he treated it as though it were, applying a cooling gel to soothe the area and securing a fresh bandage. His calm demeanor gradually calmed the others, and Calith's rigid stance softened ever so slightly. When the room finally settled, Ethan looked around at the students. Medicine isn't perfect. Even the best doctors face challenges, but every challenge is a chance to learn. That's why we adapt, improve, and keep going. As the session ended, Ethan and Claire returned to their quarters, exhausted but reflective. That could have gone better, Claire admitted, rubbing her temples. It will, Ethan said firmly. They just need to see that we're not reckless. We're here to help them survive, no matter what happens. Outside, the alien suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the rocky terrain. Ethan gazed at the distant glow of the stars, reminding himself why they had come here. Bridging two worlds wouldn't be easy, but it was worth the effort. The next morning, Ethan and Claire arrived at the academy early, ready to begin their first lesson. The Varek students were already gathered in the large teaching hall, their insectoid forms creating an eerie silhouette against the glowing walls. Caliph stood nearby, observing silently. Ethan could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on him, but he pushed the thought aside. He had faced tougher situations before. Good morning, Ethan began, his voice calm and steady. Today, we'll start with something simple, understanding the basics of injury and healing. He held up a small model of a human arm, its bones and muscles clearly visible. Injuries happen for many reasons: accidents, fights, or even mistakes. Healing is about fixing what's broken. A few of the students leaned forward, intrigued, while others exchanged uncertain glances. One of them, a younger Varek named Syra, raised a limb hesitantly. Why do you focus on physical repair? She asked. Our machines can mend most damage quickly. Is your way primitive? Ethan smiled faintly, not offended by the question. Not primitive, just different. Machines are useful, but they aren't always available. Sometimes, all you have is your knowledge and whatever tools you can find. That's why humans learn to adapt. To demonstrate, Ethan pulled out a sharp knife and made a shallow cut on his own hand. Gasps rippled through the room as blood welled up, dark and vivid against his skin. Claire stepped closer, pretending to scold him. Ethan, really? Did you have to do that here? It's fine, he said, grabbing a clean cloth to stop the bleeding. Watch carefully. With deliberate movements, he cleaned the wound, applied a thin layer of ointment from his kit, and wrapped it tightly with a bandage. This is basic first aid. It prevents infection and helps the body heal faster. Anyone can do it, anywhere. The students watched intently, though some still seemed skeptical. Kelith clicked softly, a sound that might have been approval or doubt. "You say this method works without technology," he said, "but how effective is it compared to our systems?" "That's what we're here to show you," Ethan replied. "Let's try something practical. Who wants to volunteer?" Syra hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. "I will," she said, her voice firm despite the flicker of nervousness in her eyes. Ethan nodded and handed her a small blade. "Make a tiny cut on your exoskeleton, somewhere safe. Don't worry, it won't hurt much." Syra complied, making a shallow scratch near her forearm joint. Ethan examined it closely, then reached for a vial of liquid from his bag. "This is a disinfectant. It kills germs that could cause infections." He applied it gently, watching Syra's reaction. She flinched slightly but didn't pull away. "Now comes the tricky part," Ethan continued. "Your exoskeleton is tough, so sealing the wound isn't as straightforward as it would be for us. But if left untreated, even a small cut can become serious." He took a piece of flexible material and secured it over the injury. "This patch should hold until your natural healing process kicks in." Some of the students murmured among themselves, impressed by the simplicity of the technique. Others looked unconvinced, especially when Syra winced again as Ethan pressed the patch into place. "It stings," she admitted, though her tone was more curious than angry. Claire noticed the tension building in the room. "Remember," she interjected, "medicine isn't always comfortable. Sometimes a little pain now means avoiding bigger problems later." Kelith studied Ethan carefully, his multifaceted eyes gleaming. "Your methods are unconventional, but perhaps there is value in learning them." He turned to the class. "Observe closely. These humans may teach us things we haven't considered before." As the lesson ended, Ethan packed up his supplies, feeling a mix of satisfaction and unease. The Virak were intelligent, but their reliance on advanced technology made them wary of simpler solutions. Teaching them wouldn't be easy, but Ethan was determined to prove that human ingenuity had its own kind of power. Later, as they walked back to their quarters, Claire spoke up. "Do you think they'll ever fully trust us?" "They will," Ethan said confidently. "Trust takes time, but results speak louder than words. We just need to keep showing them what we're capable of." Under the alien sky, with its strange constellations twinkling above, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. This mission wasn't just about sharing knowledge. It was about bridging two worlds, and maybe, just maybe, finding common ground in the process. The small spacecraft descended through the thick, swirling clouds of Xyloth 7, its engines humming softly as it prepared to land. The planet below was a chaotic mix of jagged mountains, dense forests, and rivers that glowed faintly under the dim light of its twin suns. It was a world both beautiful and deadly, where every living thing seemed to exist in a delicate balance of predator and prey. For Dr. Ethan Blake, this was nothing new. He had spent most of his life on planets just like this, harsh, unforgiving places where survival depended on quick thinking and resourcefulness. Ethan leaned back in his seat, watching the terrain grow closer through the viewport. Beside him, Claire Dawson adjusted her medical kit for what felt like the 100th time. She was younger than Ethan, with a sharp mind but less experience in the field. Still, she had proven herself capable during their journey, and Ethan trusted her completely. Together, they made up the medical team sent by Earth to share knowledge with the Virak, an alien species native to Xyloth 7. The ship touched down gently on a flat expanse of rock near the Virak Academy. As the hatch opened, a rush of warm, humid air greeted them, carrying the scent of unfamiliar plants and minerals. Outside, a group of tall, insectoid beings stood waiting. Their elongated limbs shimmered in shades of green and gold, and their large, multifaceted eyes reflected the sunlight. They moved with precision, each step deliberate and measured. One of them stepped forward, a leader, judging by the intricate patterns etched into its chitinous exoskeleton. "Greetings, humans," the creature said in a voice that sounded like a series of clicks and hums translated into English. "I am Caliph, overseer of the Academy's healing studies. We are honored by your presence." Ethan nodded politely, stepping out of the ship. "Thank you for having us. I'm Dr. Ethan Blake, and this is my assistant, Claire Dawson. We're here to teach and learn. Medicine has always been about sharing knowledge." Caliph tilted its head slightly, as if processing the statement. "Your reputation precedes you, Doctor. Your people are said to possess unparalleled skills in healing, even in the most dire circumstances. We hope to understand how such abilities are possible." Claire glanced at Ethan, unsure how to respond. She knew Earth's medicine wasn't perfect. It had been shaped by necessity more than anything else. But Ethan simply smiled. "We adapt," he said simply. "On our homeworld, danger is everywhere." Medicine became a way to survive. As they followed Caliph toward the academy, the landscape unfolded around them. Towering trees with glowing leaves swayed in the breeze, and strange bird-like creatures darted between branches. Everything seemed alive, pulsing with energy. Claire couldn't help but feel awestruck, though she kept her focus on the task ahead. This mission wasn't just about teaching. It was also about building bridges between two very different cultures. Inside the academy, the humans were introduced to the students, a group of young Varrock eager to learn. Some looked curious, others skeptical, but all watched Ethan and Claire closely. The room itself was vast, filled with strange instruments and displays that hinted at the Varrock's advanced technology. Yet when Ethan asked basic questions about anatomy or treatment methods, the silence that followed was telling. "They don't know much about biology," Claire whispered to Ethan later as they unpacked their supplies. "How are we supposed to teach them advanced techniques if they can't even explain how their own bodies work?" Ethan shrugged, unfazed. "Then we start from scratch. That's what medicine is all about, finding solutions, no matter where you begin." As night fell over Xylox 7, casting long shadows across the rocky plains, Ethan sat by a window, gazing at the stars. He wondered what challenges lay ahead, and whether the Varrock would truly be ready for the lessons humanity had to offer.